guys, DarkLord Project here again, and before we get started with this PC build, I would like to apologize for this late upload. It wasn't because I was lazy or I didn't have access to internet or schoolwork. It was because I was simply sick. I don't usually get sick a lot, but when I do, it could usually last a little bit longer, so there's pros and cons to everything, obviously. So I'd like to apologize for the late download, but there really isn't much I could do there. So if I sound a little stuffed up in this video or I make some mistakes, because I'm kind of out of it still, but I wanted to get this video up for you guys, so I did it anyways. So this build is an $800 extreme gaming PC build, so let's get started. The CPU is an AMD Athlon X4 760K, which is $75. It's a quad-core processor, it's clocked at 3.8 GHz, it's unlocked, and it's FM2+. This is a great CPU for this build because it does have the low price tag of $75, and I think it fits perfectly for this build because of its specs. Quad-core is more than enough cores when it comes to gaming, or just most processors these days, and 3.8 GHz is still very high, but you need to remember Intel gigahertz are a little bit more powerful than AMD. That's kind of a controversial topic, but that's what I think. But don't worry about the speed of the processor. It should be able to play most games at ultra settings with no issues at all. And it is also unlocked, so if 3.8 GHz doesn't satisfy your needs, feel free to overclock this processor around 4 GHz. So the motherboard is the Asus A55BME, which is $54. It's micro ATX. It's a higher quality FM2 budget board, and it supports high-speed RAM. So this is obviously a higher quality board, so we can do some overclocking with the unlocked AMD Athlon X4 760K. The board is also micro ATX, so it'll fit inside most cases perfectly fine, and it does support high-speed RAM. So if you do want to get 1866 MHz in the future, this board shouldn't have issues supporting it at all. So the RAM is the G.Skill Ripjaws X series, which is $80. It's 8GB to 4GB sticks, it's DDR3, and it's clocked at 1600 MHz. So this is some pretty basic gaming RAM. I use this in a lot of builds because it does have that $80 price tag, which is still a budget RAM kit because it's around $75 to $85. I consider that budget RAM. It has all the basic specs that most RAM should have for gaming, which is DDR3, 8GB and 1600 MHz, and G.Skill Ripjaws X series RAM is a little bit more higher quality RAM than all those other companies you could see out there, so I decided to stick with this RAM for this higher quality build. For this build, we actually do have two hard drives. We have an SSD and an HDD. So the SSD is the Corsair 4 Series GT, which is $100. It's 128 GB. It's a 2.5-inch SSD. And it's a high quality SSD. So Corsair usually does have pricier SSDs, but this one is a really good price for $100. It is a high quality SSD from my research of Corsair. They're up there with, Samsung, which is a very high quality SSD maker. You're getting 128 GB, which is enough to hold some important programs, your OS, and possibly a few games here and there. And it's obviously 2.5 inches, which is the standard size for most SSDs. So the hard drive is the Western Digital Caviar Blue, which is $55. It's 1 TB, it's a 3.5-inch HDD, and it's 7,200 RPM. So this is pretty basic for most hard drives around this price range of $40 to $60. They're usually 1 TB and 3.5 inches, which is most HDDs, and 7,200 RPM, which doesn't seem very fast compared to the SSD, but it's still fast enough to launch most programs at a very reasonable speed. The graphics card is the MSI Radeon R9 290X Twin Frozer, which is $350. It's 4 GB of GDDR5 RAM, it's clocked at 1.04 GHz, and it has a high wattage. So on Pure PC, people will talk about my other build, an R9 290, which is pretty similar to 290X except for speed, uses a high wattage, and I was only using 500 watts. So I was cutting it pretty close. I know this is even more power intense card, so I decided to get 600 watts for this build if you are curious. So 1.4 GHz is also still very fast. Like I said, similar to the R9 290, except it's kind of the OC edition. The card also has 4 GB of GDDR5 RAM, which is fine for single monitor support when it comes to gaming, but if you do decide to game with 2 or 3 monitors, this card should be able to handle it if you do lower down the settings or you're just simply playing a more simple game. The case for this build is the Corsair 200R ATX Mid Tower, which is $50. It's a nice case with a low price tag. It's a wide case with cable management. It has a very simple design and it has decent airflow. So the Corsair 200R is the little brother of the Corsair 300R, which is a very successful case. It does only have a $50 price tag compared to the 300R, which is much more expensive. The case looks very nice in most areas because it's very simplistic, but it is a little bit wider than most ATX Mid Tower cases, so you should put that in consideration if you are making this build go in a small space instead of an office. It also does have decent airflow, which is important for most cases. I've seen better airflow in cases, but this one does get the job done perfectly fine. The power supply for this build is the Corsair CX600, which is $60. It's a quiet power supply. It has enough wattage for this build, which is 600 watts, and it's 80+ bronze certified. So like I said, I was very specific when it came to the power supply for this build because we do have an R9290X, which uses a lot more power than NVIDIA's 900 series graphics card. It also is a quiet power supply. The CX600, even though the name looks similar to the CX500 for example, it is a little bit more quieter because it is a little bit more expensive compared to the CX500. It's also 80+ bronze certified, which is nothing special when it comes to power supplies these days. It's pretty much a standard like DDR3, most RAM is 1600 MHz. So 80+ bronze certified will simply save you some extra cash on your power bill. So the overview for this PC build is it's a great budget for a gaming PC and it has high quality parts. So unlike my $550 PC build, which is pretty similar to this, it does have some small upgrades here and there like the CPU and the graphics card, but it also has some other parts like an SSD. So when you pay that $800 premium price, you do get those more premium parts with the build. Like I said, the high quality parts will last you longer than a lower quality build like my $500 builds. And if you just like that more premium feel, $800 is a great budget range when it comes to gaming. So that's pretty much it, guys. Make sure you check out purepc.net, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you later.